Hi, friend. How are you? All right, it is Tuesday. It's 1 o'clock on the dot. I'm here every Tuesday chatting about the ways that holistic nutrition can be of service to you in regards to whatever our main topic is for the month. So here at Good Food and You, we are talking about stress all month long. My name is Lucas Simmons. I am your holistic nutrition practitioner. So I am doing this as a live. I do this every Tuesday live on the Facebook page, but I'll tell you, I save it and then I pop it up on my YouTube channel every week. So if you got good content from this week's video, know that if you go to my website, lucasimmons.com, you'll be able to find the link to the YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, there's tons of stuff banked on my page. I've built playlists according to whatever topics that we've covered in these live Tuesday videos. So take a peek through there, okay? Okay. Hi, how are things? How's it shaking, kids? It's November 3rd. Here in Alberta, it is a beautiful day. It is incredibly summer-like almost. Certainly fall-like, actually, more. Like, yeah, the winds are here and the winds of change are coming, right? That's all I'll say on that. Okay, we have good stuff to cover this month. We are talking about stress and what you can do about it. And I have lots of stuff to cover this month. So we're going to start today with a talk called Got Stress, Now What? Oh, thanks, Luca. You just added to my stress. I know I did. But just wait, I have solutions. Okay. The stress response. Let's first set the goal for understanding what exactly is the stress response and what kinds of body parts are involved in it. So your body's stress response is a really brilliant thing that you have evolved to have. And only those who've survived and passed it on to their progeny have been able to survive. Those people who didn't develop the stress response, their people aren't around anymore. It's a life-saving mechanism. It is a mechanism that was developed thousands of years ago by our ancestors in the hopes of getting out of harm's way. The idea was, God forbid, a saber-toothed tiger crawls up on you. You've got this innate, brilliant system called the fight or flight reaction. And this fight or flight reaction in the body triggers a whole bunch of things. One of the things it trips is that stress response. A couple of things that are involved there. There's a lot of different body parts involved in this, but I'll tell you the big main player in all of this that feels this probably the most keenly are your adrenals. So when we're talking about the stress response all month long, we are really going to be concentrating on how to nourish your body deeply to support those adrenals. Now your adrenals are the size of your thumb and you've got two of them. They're sitting right on top of your kidneys. So lower back. As we get into the winter season, it's actually adrenal season. So how amazing is that? It's kind of like I planned it that way. Okay, well, I didn't. I just tapped into some of the wisdom that's already available. All right, so the adrenals are part of that reaction, but that reaction that the adrenals engage with, that release of cortisol, and everyone knows about cortisol, I think, that is that stress hormone. And your adrenals will release it when that fight or flight mode is activated. Well, who's doing the activation? Your hypothalamus. What's your hypothalamus? What, Luca? I don't want to take science classes. Hypothalamus is a teeny tiny little organ that is inside of your head. It's part of your glandular endocrine system, and it's a really, really important player in many different processes in the body, including going, red alert, red alert, red alert, we're under attack, guys. We need to get out of harm's way. Thank you, hypothalamus. You're the best. Okay, here's the deal though. Hypothalamus is involved in something called the HPA axis. That stands for hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. And that really just means those three work together to trigger a hormonal response to, oh my God, I'm in danger kind of feeling. Oh, that's cool. Okay, great. That's nice. Here's why. When that fight or flight mode goes on, when the stress response goes on, same thing. Your adrenals, as part of the picture, like I was mentioning, release cortisol. Yay! Do you know how awesome cortisol is? It keeps us from dying. First of all, you naturally produce cortisol early in the morning, and your production of it tapers off as the day goes on and as the light levels change. So cortisol is higher in the morning than it is later in the day, and it's a natural function of being a human. It's also produced in a little bit more abundance when you are in that stress mode. Now, cortisol, one of the jobs it does is it has the ability to pull sugar into the bloodstream from a couple of spots where you store it inside your muscles, and you store sugars in your liver as well. In that stress response, one of the jobs of cortisol is to go digging around, finding that sugar, pulling it out of storage into circulation. And that's a really great thing, because when that comes out into circulation, now your muscles have the fuel to absorb it directly into the cells and run like the dickens to get out of harm's way. Thank you, body. You're the best. P.S. Yeah, she really is. There's a bunch of other things that happen as well, but that's kind of the main one that I want to focus on today. It developed naturally from our ancestors. And part of the idea was, thousands of years ago in saber-toothed tiger times, you had like 6 months before you had to trigger that reaction again. Welcome to 2020, especially today. It is being tripped 72,000 times a day. That was kind of like living in a highly infested saber-toothed tiger den. Like, essentially, that's what's going on. With the amount of stress and the ramping up and the fear-mongering and fear-mongering on both sides. No one is immune. I contribute to it as well. Like, I want to be honest. I know this, and I am actively working at reducing that self-war talk and reducing the war analogy in when I am talking to clients. But part of what is contributing to all of this as well is that they're now tracing that when there's been intergenerational trauma, when there's trauma 2, 3, 4 generations ago, that they can now pick up and trace in a 4th generation person's hypothalamus. That's tripping the stress response. It's one of the reasons why in 2020, it's kind of like the fire is lit. There's a fire under our butts. It is time to change. That's all I'm saying. It's totally time to change directions. Okay. So part of the problem is also when your adrenals are releasing this cortisol, they actually steal ingredients from some of the other processes in the body, because your body will prioritize getting you out of harm's way first and foremost. Oh my gosh, can you please understand how marvelous your body is and how much she wants to get you out of trouble? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, that's nice. Now what? Okay. Kinds of things that can trip that fight or flight mode, the stress response, or trip that HPA axis. I'm going to go through a list, okay? Emotional stress, big emotions. Any threat, so think job loss, insecurities, voter day, fear, those types of things. If you're the person who has seemingly exaggerated emotional responses, if you're the person, or if you know someone who makes mountains out of molehills, every time that reaction happens, their beautiful body is turning on the stress response to free sugar into the bloodstream so that they have the fuel to get out of harm's way because they perceive they're in threat right now. That's amazing. That is a life-saving mechanism, P.S. Trauma, that switches on all the time. That's part of the issue. If you don't live in a safe environment, that will trip that stress response. Also, other things that can trip this response, this is where it gets interesting. If you cannot digest foods properly, that can trip the stress response. If you have an imbalance of bugs at the gut, that can trip that response. If you have any type of inflammation in the body, that response is turned on more often than not. Where does inflammation start? The gut. The gut is ground zero. That is leaky gut. That trips that stress response, the cortisol release, the adrenals to release cortisol. That happens all the time when there is leaky gut or inflammation going on. Chronic disease, same thing. It trips this system on all the time. Little aches and pains, those kinds of things. They can trip that response. So how do you know if you have an issue with your adrenals or that stress is becoming a bit too much for your body to handle? Well, first things first, how are you feeling? Do you feel like the world is pretty heavy? Do you feel like that veil is quite thin? Like, I've been saying this all week, emotional resiliency. How's your emotional resiliency? Is it kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I just need to go crawl under a rock? Okay, that's a good way to know that the stress response is being triggered maybe a little bit more than we should. Or it's not being triggered more than it should. It's being triggered in the right amounts to actually prevent you from dying. Thanks, body, you're the best. Oh my gosh, what can you put in place though? We'll get to solutions in a second. So how do you know if you have these issues? Yeah, emotional resiliency. You kind of feel the earth keenly. That is a really good sign that stress is taking a toll. Do you have chronic disease or an autoimmune condition? How else do you know if you have these stress issues? Do you have a hard time digesting? Do you see undigested food in your stool, like not corn, but tomato skins or lettuce? Like, oh, I could pick apart the salad on last night. That's a good indicator. Do you feel the emotions of the world keenly? More than that, do you have a short fuse? Or does somebody in your circle have a short fuse? In that moment, that person is choosing to live. I want you to know. Okay, maybe sometimes they're a little bit hard to deal with. And sometimes it's a bit hard for you to actually help them move through it. I'm thinking of all parents with teens. Where's our patron saint? Anyway, short fuse is certainly an indicator that this stress response is on all the time. Autoimmune conditions. Yeah, totally. How else do you know if you have these issues? Is this transition through to menopause a tricky thing for you? Are you feeling like your body is literally on fire with those hot flashes, with emotional, or you're having a difficult time in that transition time? Other types of time in life. Mums with young children. Are you exhausted? Like more than the regular, oh yeah, young mums, they don't get much sleep. Yeah, for sakes, mom don't get a lot of sleep. But are you so wiped out? Is it to the point where you cannot function and your brain fog is so thick? That tells me you've got a stress response going on more often than not. Do you have super low energy? Like, I need to nap all day long kind of thing, like your body's asking for it. Do you have thyroid stuff? Any thyroid stuff? Either the autoimmune Hashimoto's kind, or you're on thyroid medication, or they obliterated your thyroid with radioactive iodine at some point. All of those issues tell me that the stress response is being triggered. Thyroid issues are all adrenals. It is all internal stress. It is all because something's not working somewhere metabolically in the body. Do you have skin stuff? Here's a big one. Do you have panic, anxiety, mood stuff? Is your emotional resiliency low? Do you want to crawl under a rock? Sleep can be impacted, and anything doing with hormones can be impacted. So we're talking fertility, PCOS, migraines. How are your periods? How is that transition time through menopause? Other hormonal things. Oh yeah, sleep is totally a function of hormonal. The other thing that happens in this is that because cortisol gets freed into the bloodstream, it now releases sugar into the bloodstream on a regular basis. And that can actually bring on blood sugar imbalance issues down the line, or maybe they are co-happening at the same time. They're co-happening. Blood sugar imbalance stuff is a really good indicator that your body's under stress a lot. So who could handle dealing with stress? Who could use information and ways to put support in place to handle stress? People have blood sugar imbalance issues. You are that if you have insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, if you have obesity, or if you're sporting a beautiful muffin top. Still working on it, okay? Okay, that is all of it. I have 30 seconds to go. You ready? Do you want to understand this a little bit better? I've got a class for that. It's called Vitality Inflammation. I will drop a link to it in the comments below. This will give you really concise exploration of why hormonal imbalances and stress are linked to blood sugar imbalances and are there because of inflammation. It'll also set you up with some pieces to start putting in place to help reduce that stress on the body. Do you want to start working on it though? Oh. There's my timer. Do you want to start working on it? Here's a couple of things. I have a couple of things coming up. A Gut Lovin' Bootcamp. Registration closes on Friday. We are doing it all through Gut, and that is a group program where we will actively put those pieces in place. If you're ready, sign up for that. It is available through the link in my bio. You can work with me one-on-one. You can also sign up for my newsletter. That stuff is free and comes every Friday. We're talking stress all month long. I will add these links in the comments. If you have any questions about stress, hit me up through a private message or in the comments below and share this with someone who needs your help, okay? Or mine, okay? Happy day, gang. Bye.